Hello everyone, my name is Desierto Media, and I'm joined here by my good friend Briana to talk about the art scene in El Paso. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Bri.
Hi there, I'm Briana. Nice to meet everyone. I'm a graphic designer here in El Paso. I work in a real estate agency, but on my side, I like to just create art, whether that be illustration or, graphic design itself. I'm just kind of for supporting artists and supporting just diverse art here in El Paso. Cool. Nice to be on the podcast, Demies.
Hell yeah, man. And see, that's awesome because me and Briana actually, we've known each other for over a decade now. Like, she's one of my best friends, and we're
10
both graphic
years.
designers. So, I could attest to you saying that you're all about supporting artists because, like, you definitely helped me out a lot during the UTEP days, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And,
Graphic design at UTEP, yeah,
oh yeah,
is
it's
a
a whole nother beast in
journey.
itself. But see, I want to invite you here today for the first episode of the Desiertalks. Hello, hi, thank you everyone for being here. Because one thing that I realized while doing a lot of these photo shoots is just the amount of creativity and interesting people that I'm lucky that I've been able to come across in over the 5 years that I've been doing this. And I thought, why not start here? Like close to the heart. So as I said, me and Brandon, we both did graphic
Definitely.
design, but we've decided to chase our art in many different ways. So Bree, what is it that you do with your art nowadays?
Well, nowadays I try to put myself out there as surprising as that is. I didn't really put myself out there when I graduated. I sort of just try to look for a stable job here in El Paso, and even that in itself is like difficult to find, but we'll get to that later. I like to, on my free time, just go to art markets and put what I have out there, whether I don't have a lot of merch or if I just don't think it's good enough for me. Someone out there will, and it's just about getting myself out there in El Paso and joining the scene. And that's what makes a scene, just being present.
See, and when you mention the scene, I know, for instance, a lot of times when I do photo shoots, I like to mention the photography scene. And in my eyes, that
Yeah.
involves myself and some of the few photographers that I have stayed relatively close to communication wise during the time since I started, and the models that we all tend to kind of bounce around shooting with often. So, in your eyes, what
Right.
is the art scene in El Paso?
The art scene in El Paso is very diverse. You keep finding new artists nowadays, like whether that be photographers or videographers or traditional artists, graphic designers too. There used to be a graphic design organization here called AIGA. Sadly, it's not an organization anymore, but I was a part of that. And since that went away, I just dove into going to events and meeting people along the way.
When it comes to the art scene here in El Paso, are
Yes.
there typically the same people that you see at these art markets that you go to, the same people hosting these events, or is it more of just different people each time that are creating these events for the community?
It's different people each time. Usually they are open to like any and all artists. What I like about art markets is because of that creative liberty that we can like do anything out there. Because I don't do El Paso centered art, and that's a lot of what artists here do is just El Paso centered art and Chicana, Latinx, Hispanic type things. And I am none of those things in my art when I create, but they're usually just random people that I meet along the way, and some friendly faces and people that I run into once in a while. But yeah.
Actually, it's interesting that you bring up that you tend to not do Latin slash Chicano style art. So, how would you describe your art in that sense?
I like to think of my art as just sort of fun, whimsical doodles, and it's freestyle. I'm still trying to find a style, and whether that be traditional or digital. I'm playing around at the moment and, doing what I can and what I love to do. At the moment, I like to draw anime, as silly as that is. I find it very therapeutic, and I try to combine that with my love for graphic design. My current projects are these like anime style Pantone postcards. And what Pantones are like these swatches of color that graphic designers use to like pinpoint a certain color if we want to like print or create something digital. We use the Pantone swatches, and yeah, that's something I like to do. Is just a fun freestyle form of art.
See, and I think that's a pretty interesting and unique way of expressing art, like with the whole Pantone swatches, because at least here in El Paso, a lot of my viewpoints here are, of course, based on the city that I've grown up and lived in my entire life, and that's something that you don't see a lot of. I agree
Hmm.
with what you say that, like there is a lot of, you know, Mexican, Hispanic, Latin style art here in the city, and to
Definitely.
that degree, did it ever cross your mind like, hey, maybe I should do some of that art to represent like who I am, my heritage, or was it more of like a desire to not try to fit in as much?
It was a desire of what I wanted to do. As as artists, we just kind of want to do our own thing, right? Regardless of what is out there, we want to produce something different. Like it wasn't a desire to be different. It was just in me to just create something different. And you know, I can, I guess merge styles, like try to fuse like the artist that comes to mind right now is Blanca. She does these Pokemon art for El Paso, and she it's great. Her style is unique and people know her, and it's fantastic that she's incorporated like kind of borderland themes with her own personal touch. And that's what I'm trying to find is a voice within like who I am as a Hispanic here in El Paso and just incorporating my fun, whimsical take on things. That's something I'm still trying to find
Hmm. So
and develop. Yeah.
a popular artist that I see a lot in El Paso is Artegatino. That's his Instagram tag. I'll be
Mhm.
sure to put it up right now. And he is known for doing a lot of these hyper realistic, like balloon graffiti style designs in a lot of buildings in the city. And of course,
Right.
usually they spell out things like El Paso Strong, I love El Paso, stuff like that. And I myself have taken photos with some of these designs before. Do you think, as an artist here in El Paso, it's harder to get noticed and move up in the art world if you're not doing something that is El Paso themed or focused?
I believe it is at this moment. It is only because the El Paso art scene is so small, as diverse as it is. Right. People like relating to people don't like change here or don't like viewing. They don't like different things. They like to see themselves in their city and the art is reflected on them and who
Hmm.
they are as a city. It makes them it's a very prideful thing, and
Definitely.
that's completely understandable. And you I think you can become a great artist and well known if you had the right formula. But I truly believe that you can't stray away from like that El Paso mark. You have to you have to identify El Paso within your art in order to be noticed. It is possible, but it's really difficult.
See, I agree with what you said there about El Pasoans being very prideful in their city.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of that is shown off in movements such as El Paso Strong, or the fact that every art piece that you see in like local restaurants or shops, like they feature the star on the mountain or a scene from
Oh,
downtown
definitely.
or old El Paso. So to that degree, with how small that you mentioned the art community is, what do you use in order to stand out? I know for sure Instagram. So can you talk more about your Instagram?
Sure thing. Yeah, my Instagram is at Oh My Darling Designs, and it usually just started out as design page when I graduated from UTEP. That is a college I went to study graphic design, and as of late, I've just been posting things that I wanted to create for the longest time. One being when the pandemic started, I wanted to create like these candy cartoon stickers, and they were fun for a while, and that's what got my foot into like going into markets and selling them.
Hmm.
And they did well, and people liked the stories attached to them, but you know, they weren't El Paso centered. So I've learned a lot from that, and what I had to put out there isn't what the people wanted, but it's it was necessary to just for myself to put it out there. So yeah.
Right. I think that as a creative, not everything is going to go perfect. You're definitely going to be learning stuff along the way. Like in my case, I remember, I want to say like about 2 years ago, having this really like rinky dink
No
setup
problem.
of like a stand that I would attach my backdrop to, and then if like a little bit of wind blew, it would completely knock it over. And now I've moved on
Oh,
to like doing like studio shoots and finding different spots around the city. So yeah, I think as long as you have that hustle and motivation, you'll get to where you want to go.
definitely.
And it's something
Yeah.
that I see with a lot of young artists. They start off posting online because that's expected of them. They go to school, they do everything by the numbers. But a lot of them kind of shy away when they don't see that the results that they want to see are hitting. So,
Right.
what can you tell me about the steps you take whenever you sign up for markets? Like, how did you get into that? What's the process for signing up for markets to be a vendor? Stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. Just offering some advice on how to get yourself out there into markets.
I think that's what's needed.
Um, Definitely. I would recommend the art and wax events if you're just starting. They usually don't charge artists and they usually have it every last Thursday. Location depends, right? Whether it be east side, west side, central. They're very diverse in where they're hosting, but I think my main problem too was, am I going to make money selling my art? And
Of
that's
course.
your first question, right?
Yeah.
So going to art events, just looking on Instagram, and there's a lot of them out there. That is the one I would recommend because it is free for people selling. I would recommend that to people, and just going to their Instagram DMs and messaging, "Hey, I would like to sell at this event. Could you tell me more information?" And they're very helpful with things that you need or things that will be provided to them. Because as an artist as well, you're like overwhelmed with the things that you need to buy to make your station look presentable, and that's something I struggled with. Like, well, I don't have a lot of art, and I'm afraid to just bring like a couple of things, but there's this one artist that sticks out to me. Her name is Michelle Castro, and I kind of like watched her journey as like her arsenal of art grew. She started with prints, she started with stickers, now she has acrylics and tote bags. Like she I think was at El Paso Comic Con and her station was huge. And I remember when she was just selling like five or six prints. It was amazing. Like she's on Instagram and she's a local artist here in El Paso too. And I've had a couple of conversations with her, and she's a nice person.
Yeah, I think outreach is definitely almost expected and required even if you want to grow
Hmm.
in any city, not just El Paso. I know I
Right.
used to be very shy, intimidated to reach out to others, but I think that through the process of, having the camera bestowed upon me, so to say, I had to learn to reach out, get out of my comfort zone, kind of get in the groove. And I feel like that's something that, if I could kind of box in what you just said, is the first hurdle that a lot of people need to get over, especially when it comes to art, because you're putting yourself out there constantly. So,
Sure.
what services do you use in order to order and get your products, such as like your buttons, pins, stickers, stuff like that, made?
The first batch of stickers that I ordered from were sourced here locally. They're called Big Medium, and you basically get a bunch of stickers for like cents, right? I would recommend them if something of yours truly sells. I'm just putting this out there because they're the first people that I thought of when I first started. However, it didn't work in the long run for me because those stickers weren't selling, but that's another topic for another time. And I would really recommend Sticker Mule. Like they're very good quality stickers. You get to approve the proof that they give you. If you want to change something, they can do it for you. You just have to send them your design and you can get like 10 stickers for $10. So basically, every sticker is like $1 each. You can sell them for 2 depending on the design and size of it, and that's the my go-to.
Hmm.
Buttons as well. I think I got them from Sticker Mule. I'm subscribed to them, so I get
Oh,
emails
okay.
on discounts and stuff. Yeah,
Okay, well, hey, that's awesome. It's like a one-stop shop almost.
definitely. I love Sticker Mule. Hashtag not an
Not
ad,
not sponsored,
not a
yeah.
sponsor,
Not sponsored
not
yet.
sponsored.
So,
Yet
yeah, that's being
they
hopeful
they
here.
they they did give me a shout out. I shared a story how I low key love Sticker Mule, and they replied and they're like, "Thank you for sharing," or blah blah blah.
Hey, that's
So
one foot in the door. There you go.
That was nice.
Gonna be getting that sticker mule sponsor money anytime soon now.
Oh, definitely.
So again, as I've said before, like, well, you're one of my best friends. I've known you for so long. How do you
Yes.
view El Paso as someone, in your early 20s? Do you see this as a city that's growing? Do you see it as a place that you need to get out of? A place that's like stuck in the past? How do you view El Paso?
I did at first in high school that it was a city that I needed to get out of, and it's a very dreary outlook that I had in the past because I just didn't see any appreciation for different art. I always saw appreciation for existing art and, Latino El Paso based art. And I thought that was boring. But I thought to myself, if there isn't a market for my kind of style here, then I'm going to have to leave El Paso. And these last few years have changed. That thinking sort of changed for me because it is growing and there's more art markets, there's more diverse art, and there's more people moving here, I believe. Like events don't just like happen to happen, like it's because there's people showing up to them, I as silly as that is. Whatever, right? But yeah, I really want to stay in El Paso now and just keep doing my own thing because yeah, you never know.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like, same as you, I used to think that this was a city that, was very stuck in its ways.
Right,
Um,
it wasn't truly accepting to change.
that also almost forgotten in a sense, like we're on the edge of Texas. We're completely different from every city in Texas
Yeah,
in that regard as well. And growing up, you hear a lot of people talk about how, oh, well, you have to get out of El Paso. Oh, there's no opportunities here. There's no this, there's no that. But
yeah.
it's nice that, just like you, like my mindset has changed as well. Like I view the city as having a lot of potential, not just for new art, but also opportunities of all kind in that
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. A community is like growing for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. And the way that I view that community growing is mostly through online. Like you mentioned that you like to do a lot of anime art. And, I
Hmm.
remember a specific time back in like the middle school days where it was like cringy or,
Oh yeah, that's
embarrassing to be
right.
an
Yeah.
anime fan, but now it kind of seems to be in, like everywhere you go to like
Yeah,
a
it's more
mall or
accepting. Yeah.
stuff like that. For sure, more accepting as well, more mainstream. I know a lot of people hate that
It's cool
term,
to
but
like anime.
there you go. Yeah, it's cool to like anime. So I feel like maybe this resurgence and growth of social media use, this younger generation learning how to put stuff out there, is almost responsible for El Paso and its art scene acceptance, whatever you want to refer to it as, changing
Hmm.
and being more accepting now?
Oh yeah, the landscape has totally changed with technology.
Oh yeah, for sure. So like how are you using technology to get your point across, your viewpoints, your art styles, just you in general? Because I know for sure you have your Instagram that you mentioned. So
Hmm.
what kind of posts do you make on your Instagram?
Doodles. I like to doodle different characters each day. Whether they exist or not, I kind of just have to get my idea out there. Otherwise, it rots in my brain forever and it festers. And I can't function if I can't put my art out there, I'm trying to create more video centered stuff because reels are what's in, and, there's more traction with people viewing them. And it's just fun, just creating for the sake of art and trying to put your mark out there in the world.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree to that. It's almost scary in a sense trying to keep up with social
Yes.
media and what's expected of you. Like I know reels are something that I tried doing for a bit, not my cup of tea. And it just comes down to like
No, it's not
hashtags,
mine
the
either.
algorithm, all this mumbo jumbo. So going back to a point that you made earlier, you said that you weren't a big fan of all of the Hispanic, Latino, whatever art that was here in
Yeah.
El Paso. Like just the not the art itself, but the overabundance of it. So can you kind of elaborate on why you felt that
Yes.
way at first?
I felt like there wasn't a community out there for me because of the overwhelming need to present El Paso at its best, or, what the people wanted, what trying to create a voice for El Paso instead of showing my own voice. Because that wouldn't get a lot of traction. People wouldn't pay attention to me as a person. They pay attention to El Paso as a city. And that's fair, you know. More power to you. I know you have pride for your city, but you know, it's very disheartening when you don't get the support for your own point of view, how you view yourself in the city and not the city and you
Right, it kind of boxes you
as
in a sense.
it does.
I know that there have been moments where you, I, and our friends, we've been downtown and we've brought up how often we see the same artists' art all around the city. You know? I can't say that I can remember any names exactly of those artists, but I know there's been a few times where I've told you like, oh, like their art is on this building, and we drove down a bit more and like, oh, it's on the side of this building. Yeah, so how about you go ahead and name some artists that you see a lot around the city?
So some artists that I really see around the city are Krishna Podaka, Galvadon Art, and Diego Rivera. Whether it be like coffee shops or random phone booths downtown, maybe even walls too, you can see their art and they're very diverse in their styles. So that is a breath of fresh air that it doesn't have to have a certain, El Paso doesn't have a certain look, it just has a certain feel to it. And it's always the same, like nopales and like flowers and like Mexican ladies. Um, and in a sense, that does aid El Paso's like art scene because people are seeing it. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but those are some of the few big artists that I see around town, and you can go ahead with your question.
Right. So basically, what I was going to ask now that you named those artists is, do you think the popularity and overabundance of one artist's art being all over El Paso is affecting smaller artists who have less of a chance of getting their art placed on the side of buildings or inside of restaurants and businesses?
I would say that smaller artists have a more difficult time, you know, show themselves out there in El Paso with these bigger artists always having murals around them. And it doesn't help that that is the norm. And it defies the city as this one artist who is really good and, you know, you see their art everywhere. It really puts you in a box, as we've been saying. And it sucks, but, you know, we have to power through and create our own voice. And little by little, whether our purpose is like to create a new voice for the city and to have our own art, you know, be plastered everywhere around the city. Like, there's always an opportunity for change because change is nature, and you know, we're not going to be seeing the same murals every day. You know, there murals can be taken down, and a lot of famous murals here have probably been taken down and people haven't been happy about it. But you know, it's time for change. It's time for someone new, and as long as you keep doing your own art and your own style and your own way, you can provide a voice for yourself and a new voice for the city.
Yeah, see, I think it's interesting that you said that. I think that in response to what you said, it's definitely important to be happy and congratulate those artists that are popular, that have quote unquote made it, because it is hard to, you know, make it again in the art world, you know?
Yes.
So
Make it.
it's definitely interesting that you say that it is a bit harder for others to stand out, because I think that goes for any business as well. If I had to put it in photography terms, I know there are a lot of really amazing photographers in this city, much bigger than I am, much more talented than I am. And it's easy for me to feel like, okay, well, they're going to get all of the models going to them, all the businesses going to them, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So,
It's disheartening.
like you've been saying this entire time, it really just comes down to the individual and how you feel you can best express what makes you unique. That in the end is going to be the thing that will make you stand out, you know?
Right.
So, as we keep bringing up, social media is a big help in helping artists stand out. I feel like it definitely is necessary almost to have a small following on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever you use, if you want your art to have a higher chance of being seen. So, what can you tell me about trying to be an art influencer and what that means?
In regards to the art scene, like not a lot of people want to support each other. They're almost out to get each other, it seems. But it's understandable too, considering how small the art scene is. But I feel like you know with pages like FitFam or like Annie's Adventures, you and Della Story too.
Hmm.
People are actually getting more traction for their small businesses or like you know providing a voice because they're on a platform. I can only do so much because I'm a single person, but if I had a platform with other people with me to support each other, we would get a higher reach of not just clients, but just friends in the community. And that's what we need is just a friendship.
For sure. I think that the days of El Paso being like that small city that has no opportunities is definitely over, as we've kind of been going back
Right.
to during this entire podcast. And I think it is because of, the influence of social media and the influencers on it. I know for sure I'm a big fan of the music scene here in El Paso, like local house
Yeah.
shows, mosh bands, whatever you want to call them. And I'm always surprised when I see bands like Beach Cowboys blowing up on TikTok, not because I'm like angry or upset about it, but it's like, whoa, like a band from El Paso is getting traction, like that's cool, you know?
Hmm.
That's definitely what we need more of. So you said something very interesting right now in that it almost seems like despite friendships and a sense of community being needed to grow in El Paso, and it's what we need most right now, you said that it seems like at times people are out to get each other or bring each other down. So can you elaborate on that? And I'll be sure to touch on that
Right.
as well because I agree to some extent on that.
Well, definitely. Um, it's a sense that I get like artists are busy, right? Like I get that we're all busy, but sometimes people either don't respond or they just make plans and ditch last minute, whether it be for like a gallery event or like a small meetup or just in general. It seems like it's not really high on their priority list, but if you really want to make this happen and if you really want a community, and we're basically giving each other's time, so that's valuable too in a sense. But they're just so hyper focused with getting their own art out there. It's it's kind of hard, to create a community because of that.
I think in a perfect world, everyone would work together, everyone would support each other, but there's always going to be a bad apple in every group, of course. And
Yeah, of
not everyone thinks the same. So there's definitely a lot of people out there who
course.
think, okay, I got to drag everyone down. I got to be fake in order to gain support and then, make my way to the top, etc., etc. And
Right.
talking from a photography sense, um, those are sentiments that I have felt as well. You know,
Sure.
there was a point in time when I was barely starting out, and the first thing on my mind was I need to be as professional as I can be, not just to myself, but to others as well and how they view me. So I
Right.
would reach out to local photographers, models, and even though I didn't have much going on at the time, I would always be like, hey, like, this is me with my camera, like, me and my friends, like, we just took these shots, like, I'm trying to grow. If you'd love to do a free shoot, like, I'm all for it, let's set it up. And a lot of
Yeah.
those photographers that I met and talked to, they all stuck around, they all grew, they all quit, whatever. But a few of them as well, they got hit with a lot of controversy. Some canceled,
I see.
some called out for like
Just
their
left the
actions, how they
scene.
are. Yeah, exactly. So I think that one of the biggest challenges in having community, not just here in El Paso but anywhere, is
Hmm.
the people themselves. And there's not really a viable
Right.
way of verifying who is a part of what community, what they're like, what their intentions are. So
True.
I think it's important to have a strong voice or a group that you can trust to kind of lead the ship, you know?
That's right.
So
That's right.
if I'm saying that in order to have a community, you need good leadership, is that something that you think could work for the art community? And who do you think those leaders are or should be?
That's a very good question. Um, so I think that communities should have a leader. Just like AIGA, the community I was a part of was a national organization, and we had sort of a chapter here in El Paso with like designated leaders and, a membership director and a vice president and treasurer and secretary and what have you. But it's more or less I do my own thing and you do yours, and we'll try to share each other's content every once in a while. Like this
Mm-hmm.
is happening too right now. Like there's some pages out there trying to some marketing stuff like I think El Paso Creatives or something like that is trying to do. But even like their posting is scarce sometimes, but you know, someone has to do it. And in theory it could work, couldn't work. I just it's hard to say because of the people in the community.
For sure. Talking about El Paso creatives, it's good that you brought them up because I was about to. I know
Sure.
that maybe not intentionally, but they
Right.
position themselves as kind of one of those leading figures in the community because they have the branding down, El Paso Creatives. It's not Desierto Media, it's not Oh My Darling Designs, like it's El Paso as a whole. And they do a
Right.
lot of good by reposting, sharing stories, etc., etc. Now, whether everyone agrees that they should, be doing what they're doing, that they're like necessary. I think that comes down to personal choice. But
Right.
I feel like a lot of people, at the very least, do gravitate to pages and people like that because by taking that initiative, saying, okay, I'm going to support so and so, whether it's artists, photographers, whatever, it kind of gives
Mhm.
people something that they could latch onto and, hey, if I support them, they're going to support me because of the broadness of their name, like, hey, this might take off?
Right. No, yeah, yeah, it's sort of a branding thing, and he hit the nail right on the head with calling the page that. And you know, it just takes a certain energy to keep it going. And his page has been down and up sometimes, but um because he has a platform with that name, it's really possible for him to make it happen. Della's story wasn't something that usually comes to mind when you think of El Paso, but it's a nice and catchy name, and they made a name for themselves with the videos and reels that they posted.
For sure. I feel like you really just have to have a lot of faith in the people in the community. Like, it's easy to
Yeah.
be opportunistic and say, or be, I should say, oh, I'm gonna make this the El Paso Creatives, but I'm only gonna post so and so's work. I'm only gonna support so and so. Like, no, like I
That's
feel like
favoritism.
exactly favoritism. If you're going to do something like that, like make a page like that, make a community hub like that, like you need to be
Yeah.
willing to do what is right for everyone?
For all of El Paso creatives, not
Exactly.
just specific people.
And what I'm about to say you can disagree with, that's fine. Or maybe you agree with it as well, who knows? But on the topic of communities in El Paso, um, I guess talking from personal experience and stuff that I've seen from other artists, as someone who also went to use it for art, is it seems almost like while El Paso is growing in terms of acceptance and, its artistry, music, talent, etc., it almost comes off as if that growth is only seen online. It doesn't translate well to people showing up for said artists. You know, I feel like
Right.
there has definitely been a shift in pride here in El Paso in terms of El Paso strong. People use that as a term to kind of bond over. I know on pages such as FitFam, they love to be like, oh, El Paso strong. The El Paso community showed up to help this restaurant out, to donate clothes, blah, 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 blah. So I guess the question that I'm leading into here is, do you think that El Paso strong is only for businesses or could it also refer to the artist as well?
You know, El Paso Strong came out of the event that happened in 2019.
Hmm.
That's where that term came out of, and I don't like using it personally because
Same here.
I'm reminded of that time, and it's not very nice to. It's not. I find it surprising that people keep using it as a term of like, oh, we're a strong community because we're El Paso strong, and they pride themselves on that, but they don't know the event that happened that that term came out of.
Right, it's definitely
I
evolved.
personally know, yeah, I I just personally know people that don't like it, and it's I get the from an outsider's perspective, it seems like a great message, and it is because you're using it in the way you want to use it, and more power to you. But not. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it used in businesses. I don't like referring myself as an El Paso strong artist. I don't like it.
And can you talk a bit more about why you don't like that term, as well as the other people that you have heard it from? Like, can you elaborate more on their takes as well?
I really don't have a reason to. I just don't like it.
Well, I mean, there must be a reason why, like, I don't think you could just say, oh, I don't like it. Like, everything has to stem from someplace. Um, I know in my case, while I
Go
do
ahead.
think that it has evolved from what it originally was, because again, it was linked to the tragedy,
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it's a blanket term in the sense of how I said earlier. It's good to be El Paso strong, but a lot of people don't
Yes.
show El Paso strong. Yes, like I said, some people do. They help out small business, blah 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 blah.
Right.
But I feel like El Paso is nothing without the entire community as a whole, involving artists, its workers, its businesses, teachers. Go ahead.
And I completely agree with that. I mean, El Paso strong is basically a blanket term. Like they can use it however they want, and some people do mean well by it in supporting small businesses when using El Paso strong, but it doesn't reflect on the community as a whole, just on certain members, and that doesn't sit well with me because of where that term originated from, you know?
Right. And, as someone who has also done markets in the past, has been to art shows, galleries, whatever, I
Right.
often see disappointment there. And this happens everywhere, not just El Paso, of course, when there is a low turnout or artists aren't selling how they hoped that they would be selling. So, what do you think it is that is needed for more people to go out and support their local artists, to find out about these events? What do you think it takes?
I think it depends on the host running the event. It also depends on the theme of the event as well. People are very eager if it's Hispanic centered. Is a Hispanic centered theme. I'm pretty sure Cinco de Mayo is popping off. Whatever art events may have been going on that weekend. Um, but yeah, I think it depends on the theme of the event and the host and how much they're willing to put the event out there. It also depends on your art too, like where you're positioning your audience. So let's say I like to sell at rock concerts, at rock shows, at local house shows. Then my audience, my clients are there. They like what I provide, and like, they like more grungier stuff, and and if I'm an artist who likes to sell at there was this one event that I went to called the Manor, and it was very just it felt upscale because of the location and the people hosting it, and people were buying like luxurious candles or like crystals or what have you, like nice pastries. It depends on the event, the theme, and the host
Hmm.
to get people out there.
For sure. I think, again, it all circles back to social media influence, right? That's kind of like the main topic of today, in a sense. But if I may
Sure.
be a little pessimistic here, I think there's a further discussion to be had on how, while El Paso is growing, there is definitely a clash between the younger and the older generations of El Paso. And what I mean by that is,
Yes.
again, people love to boast about art and events. We've seen accounts like Paso Creatives and De La Story constantly do that. But El Paso, it's no secret that it's more so known for its party scene here. You know, getting current with things. Fit Fam is always posting about bars, the nightlife, accidents that happen almost every 5 minutes, it seems, you know? Um,
Yeah.
and even during COVID, it was definitely something that I noticed how hard it was for a lot of people to stay home. It was almost as if their lives depended on going out to these clubs and bars. And they're all people close to our age, you know, it's like the younger generation, if you will. So I feel like the battle that I'm referring to mostly comes from the fact that because there is that stigma that El Paso is a party city, it has that party lifestyle, that maybe all of this art mumbo jumbo, if you will, doesn't appeal to us, our generation, you know? It's kind of something that to them it's like, okay, well, it's nice to have that there. Yes, it's something that's expected. Like, okay, every city has an art district, every city has artists, blah, 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 blah. But because El Paso isn't known for that, maybe it's a losing battle to try to reach that audience. Do you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, and it's a good point that you bring up. However, I feel that it just misses the mark just a bit because there is a turnout for, let's say, the El Paso Museum of Art. I don't go very regularly, but when I do, there is a huge turnout, and there are people out there supporting. I'm pretty sure there it's like mostly just family ties or friends, that go and support the artist being featured in these exhibitions. But there's more joy um and creatives coming out today, given with like more ceramics classes coming up. When I was first starting art, and as a middle school girl, like I didn't have ceramic art, like there wasn't hobbies. El Paso didn't have hobbies like classes. The art museum has that now. They're building a children's museum, pretty sure with art themed events as well. So what I'm trying to say is the party scene for our age, I don't think it's just our age, because El Paso is known for its party scene, but I don't think it's a lost cause for artists to try and put themselves out there at events. And my reason for that is because it's more of finding a community than having the community find you.
I like that actually.
Um, because they're not going to be a billion people at every event each time.
hmm
That's just not the case. Not here and not anywhere else.
Responding to what you just said, I think that you're right. You know, I feel in a sense that my way of thinking was limiting El Paso to just one thing, given that it is a very loud thing. Like I said, we see it constantly on the news, online, what people post on their stories, what have you. But at the same
Well, I
time,
think it's
it's
up
about
to
reaching the
us.
communities.
I think it's up to us to be as loud and as frequent and relevant in posting art in whatever media or platform you use, you
Right.
know?
I think it's important to promote yourself no matter what. Like, even if, what I tell some of my other friends who do other creative endeavors, if, let's say, you post something and it only gets 5 likes, sure, in an online landscape, that might seem a little bit disappointing. But when you view it in the sense of like, hey, I put something out and I got 5 people to really like dig it, to like stop and watch this and leave a like, like that goes a
Right.
long way. That's still 5 people. And the chances that they're gonna tell someone else are, going up. The chances that, someone will later on come and appreciate that. Like that's still a thing. Like I think as long as you love what you're doing, like really love what you're doing, none of this just like hiding and putting out little like little teasers here and there and like not doing anything or doing something just to like look cool. Like if you truly are passionate about what you're doing, like you're definitely gonna go somewhere with that.
Definitely. Definitely.
So I
I
guess
agree.
to go ahead and close things out here, what are some
Sure.
last minute tips that you can give to any young and inspiring artists that are listening to this right now?
Sure. Draw every day or doodle every day because drawing every day was very daunting and scary for me. Like, I don't have the time. I don't do this. I don't do that. I don't have the materials. I'm not good enough. I don't even know how to draw hands. Whatever your excuse might be, just doodle every day.
Oh yeah, man, I think that's awesome. I know that's something that you were doing as well, like drawing every day as well, like your little challenges, like, oh, today's drawing is this, today's drawing is so and so, you know? So I think
Yeah,
it's a tried and true method. As long as you practice every day, you're gonna get somewhere for sure.
definitely. And that goes for any art, photography, traditional art, what have you, singing.
Yeah, sure, sing every day, why not?
Let's go.
So I guess with that, we can go ahead and sign off here. I want to thank everyone who stopped by to listen to us yap for an hour or so, if you will. My name is Desierto Media. I am a local photographer here, and I am joined by.
Hi, Briana. I am a local graphic designer and artist in El Paso, and please follow me on at Oh My Darling Designs. Thank you so much for listening.
Oh yeah. All right. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.
Bye bye.